It is a bright and early morning here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we are at Guarulhos Airport back in order to redo the Swiss Air flight that some of you may be aware of from the Fifth Freedoms video, in which the content was stolen when my iPhone was stolen from me on the streets of Sao Paulo. We're here bright and early at Guarulhos Airport to check in for our flight, which we're going to try and make up for the video that was lost, and the Ethiopian Airlines flight will be up soon. Shortly by the entrance, you'll see the LATAM entrance counter for the premier customers. So for those of you flying on LATAM or partner airlines, you can enter through here if you have status with them or a business class ticket. For everyone else, including us on Swiss, we're going to head inside. You can see where that priority counter dumps you out. And just to the left of that is going to be the remainder of the terminal. To the far right side of the terminal is going to be all the standard LATAM check-in booths. And over to the left side is going to be all of the rest of the airlines, including the Star Alliance and One World Airlines, like the one we're going to be on today with Swiss, which is part of the Lufthansa group, and you'll see the check-in counter for them at the same spot. Here you can see a list of the airlines that operate out of Terminal 3. Terminal 3 at Guarulhos Airport is pretty much just an international airline hub. There's a few international flights in Terminal 2, and then the second half of Terminal 2 and Terminal 1 is going to be all the domestic flights within Brazil. Over here at the Lufthansa group check-in counter, we were able to use the business/first class check-in because of my Star Alliance priority. At this point of my journey, I actually only had an economy class ticket, which was later upgraded at the time of boarding. After getting completely checked in, we head off to passport control, a TSA type security, where we then get dumped out into Terminal 3, where you can see a long line here of duty-free type shops, which we will definitely explore later. However, while we have some time to kill before our flight, I want to head out to Terminal 2 and see a little bit of what that has to offer for us. On the left side there is Terminal 3, including our Swiss Air 777 that's going to be taking us to Buenos Aires. On the right side is Terminal 2, however, still the international portion of Terminal 2, and so you'll see LATAM, Copa, Avianca, and stuff like that. The international part of Terminal 2 looks similar, you can see with the passport control, dumping you out immediately into the duty-free store, which is located basically in the same spot as Terminal 3, and all of those VIP lounges for GOL and all the other international airlines is right upstairs before you head down the wing. This small wing here is actually all the international departures, and on the other side through the glass there is all the domestic departures that fall into Terminal 2. But this is everything you're going to find in Terminal 2. All in all, it's not a very large terminal as far as the international portion of that goes. At the end of Terminal 2 here, you can see some restaurants as well as the rest of the gates. There's about 8 international gates here in Terminal 2, and as always, there's the glass dividing the entire length of the terminal, separating the domestic from international departures so that they can open it up if need be, depending on the flights that need to be accommodated that day. But with that, with the small Terminal 2 taken care of, we're heading back over to Terminal 3, which was really what was meant for international air travel out of Guarulhos Airport. We get one last look at our airplanes before we head off to the duty-free stores and take a look at the lounge that we have available to us here in Sao Paulo. When you first get out of passport control from Terminal 3, as we saw a little bit earlier, you're first dumped out to this ginormous duty-free store, which mostly has souvenirs from Sao Paulo and some Brazilian soccer stuff, which you're going to see a lot of. There's some currency exchange and some other duty-free shops as you continue walking, all the normal stuff you're going to find, with some high-end or name brand type offers as you go further down towards the gates. The other thing you're going to notice is this ginormous central rotunda. Up above is actually all the lounges, and we will get a chance to go up there and check those out. But first things first, to look at what is underneath that as far as the duty-free type shops, for those of you that are exploring that maybe don't have lounge access at Guarulhos Airport. Now when it comes to lounges in Sao Paulo Guarulhos Airport, they actually have some of the top flagship lounges that you'll find in all of South America. Some of those lounges include the LATAM Lounge, which is considered to be their second best lounge now in South America after the new one in Santiago opened up, which I am planning to look at next year sometime on a Qantas flight going across the Pacific over to Sydney. Next to that is the normal MasterCard Black Lounge, which was accessible by people that have the MasterCard Black Card. And next to that is one of American Airlines' top worldwide lounges and one of the best lounges in South America that I would love to try out one day, and that's the Admirals Club of American Airlines here at Guarulhos Airport. Some of the other things that you'll find up here is a spa-type activity where you can get massage and spa-type treatments before getting on your flight, which is pay accessible to any passenger traveling in any cabin. Across from that is this ginormous American Express lounge, which has the normal American Express type accessibility in terms of which credit cards you have to have. Our lounge is going to be to the far right side here, and you'll see that it seems to be one of the larger lounges that you'll find at Guarulhos Airport. This lounge is accessible to pretty much all Star Alliance customers, and it does seem like they do also have paid access and priority pass access as well. Now once inside, you're going to find a ton of seating, and I have been to Sao Paulo a few times now, and I've never actually seen a lounge more than half full, and I've never had trouble finding a place to sit, even if I was there with a bigger group of people. But no matter where you sit, I can assure you it is a very comfortable lounge, and it does feel very private in plenty of nooks and crannies of the area. Over here you can see some seating against this what seems like some sort of a wall. And on the other side of that wall is actually basically a large tunnel of seating with some tables, and this part is probably one of the more private sections of the lounge, even though it is still an open air concept. Towards the center of the lounge is the main bar, which wasn't too packed and wasn't serving pretty much anything except water this early in the morning, considering it was still only about 7 a.m. Past that, you actually have all of the dining area. You can see some main sit-down tables with plenty of groups of people sitting and relaxing, as well as some chairs overlooking what you can see of the tarmac. Unfortunately, because it is so far from the windows, the views from this lounge are not too great. However, the other lounges aren't any better. Now a look at the breakfast spread that's here at this Sao Paulo lounge, and it's pretty standard as far as what you're going to find throughout South America as far as breakfast goes, especially in Brazilian lounges as well. Mostly different types of bread, sandwiches, cold cuts, and cheese, so you can build whatever sandwiches you want. And alongside that, you'll find some fresh fruit and different types of yogurt cups that you can get. Across from the food is some of the drink items you can get. They actually have 4 coffee machines throughout the lounge, making sure that there's never any wait. They have some nice pastries that go along with whatever coffee or tea choices that you might choose, as well as some juice. One of the ones I found most interesting on the left side here was cashew juice, which I had never seen before. To the left of that is more of the hot style, pre-made Brazilian specialties. My favorite is always the cheese bread. Every time I'm in Brazil, I make sure to stop by and get some cheese bread in whatever lounge I may be in. There's some more beverages in a freezer as far as sodas, juices, and beers go, so enough to keep you fed and watered while you're in this lounge. And to the left of that is some more hot food items. These ones actually seem to be predominantly American or British type food with bacon and eggs, baked beans, and all kinds of stuff that you would find as far as a Western breakfast goes. And after a long red-eye flight from the United States, before I picked up any food to eat, I wanted to take advantage of their shower suites. Now for the shower suites, you can get the key from the front desk, you trade them your boarding pass for the key, and you get the boarding pass back when you give them back the key. You can see there's a number of shower suites in here. I will be shower suite number 4. They gave me the key for that one, and so it works just like any normal door, where you can unlock the door, walk in, and the shower suite is all yours, preferably, they say, for no more than 30 minutes. Amenities in this shower suite are pretty good, and the bathroom actually does seem to be pretty well kept as opposed to some of the other shower suites I've seen throughout my travels. As you can see, they give you the normal sort of towel and shower amenities that you would expect, and also some other stuff to freshen you up, considering they do have actually some fairly long flights to come here in and out of Guarulhos Airport. And after completely freshening up in the shower, it's time for me to take advantage of the food offerings they have here before heading off to get on board my flight. Keep in mind, at this point in my journey, I was still expecting to be in economy class. I wasn't expecting much food, so I went with some cold cuts and some fruit with some coffee, as well as, of course, a couple pieces of that Brazilian cheese bread. Shortly after eating, though, it was time for me to head off to my flight, past the main Hudson News and the rest of the duty-free shops, back into the terminal, and on my way out there, I was able to check out some of the other airplanes that were pushing back at this terminal. First things first, what I noticed as I watched this American Airlines 777 push back for JFK is that the entire left side of the terminal seems to be reserved all for the United States type flights, considering that shortly behind that one was a United 787 that came in from Chicago O'Hare, and behind that at hard stand was a Delta A330 that had come in shortly before from Atlanta. Now, because there actually was two gates, 309 and 310, that we could have used, they were able to split us up for the premium boarding on the right side and the economy and general boarding on the left side. However, they actually only ended up using gate number 309. Due to my Star Alliance priority though, however, considering I still had an economy ticket but I had that priority, I was able to line up with Group 2 after getting one sweet view of my 777-300 that had actually come in from Zurich just a few hours before, and I was now ready to take us on the continuation of its journey to Buenos Aires. First things first, take a look at the seat number on my boarding pass. You'll see 43K, which is a normal economy seat in the window on the right side of this airplane. I was getting priority boarding through my Star Alliance Gold, but what I also got through my Star Alliance Gold was the upgrade from Swiss Air flight, which was fantastic considering they are such close partners. Here you see 10G now all of a sudden as a seat on my boarding pass, which is part of the business class cabin. Swiss business class has always been a bucket list item for me, and so when I scanned my boarding pass and the seat error popped up on the screen and I was advised I was getting the upgrade, it honestly took me quite a while to actually believe exactly what was happening to me. Now, one of the things I pay attention to on these long-haul flights is exactly what you see the second you get through the doors onto the airplane, and the galley on board Swiss's airplane is fantastic. To the right side you can see the welcome and the Swiss logo, and the ceiling is fantastic. With that though, we're on to our seat number 10G, which is a part of the middle section. This cabin's in a 1-2-1 configuration. And here you can see I had a seatmate next to me, and I was actually able to move to a window seat later on. But before we get there, I was actually able to get you a view of what this seat number 10G, part of the middle section, actually looks like. Now, legroom is actually pretty good. You see I have room for both my backpack and my feet down on the footwell. It's actually a very large footwell. The other thing you'll notice is all of the wood detail throughout the seat. To the left side, you'll see a spot to hang a headset that was given to us to use, which was actually pretty good, as well as a coat hanger, which if you were traveling with a coat, the crew would take it and they could stash it for you. To my right side was a big counter, and on that counter was also some shelves, so if you had some literature or maybe some phone chargers or something, as well as some drinks, you could store them in the shelf directly next to your seat and still have access to this wide counter, which had plenty of space for a laptop or whatever you needed to work on that flight. Storage was never a problem in these seats. You can see in front of me here underneath the screen was a small cubby which fit all of my chargers, so I didn't have to use the shelves next to my seat for those. On the front of that shelf is a universal charging port and a USB charging port, and below that is even more storage. In here I was able to store some other items that were in my backpack that I might have wanted throughout the flight. The seat controls were a little bit limited. You weren't actually able to adjust many things individually, instead going from sitting up to laying down, and you could just hold the button to go anywhere in between and release it when you're ready. There was some extra seat controls in the armrest to my left, along with a very big remote. You can see things like the seat cushion, the massage feature, and the lumbar support, which can't be adjusted necessarily on all airplanes, so it was nice to have. The nice remote you can see was a great addition, and once we get in flight you can see just how that went along with the rest of the entertainment system. Now, the seat design itself is actually exactly what you're going to find in economy for the most part, except it's black instead of brown, and it's obviously a little bit wider. At that point, boarding had closed, and I noticed there was an open window seat standing alone there, so I asked the flight attendant if I could move. She thanked me for asking nicely, and then let me use that seat. So let that be a tip to you. If you are nice to the flight attendants, they will probably be a little bit nicer to you. You'll notice that the setup here is pretty much the same. However, this one is the typical throne type seat, meaning that it is not two people next to each other, just a solo seat. So I have counters on both sides, but as far as the storage and everything goes, it's pretty much the same that you'll find in the middle seat I had. You just have a lot more counter space. Now, of course, one of the things that I love about the 777 and what makes it my favorite airplane to fly on is when you look out that window and you just see that ginormous GE90 engine, something that just cannot be beaten. The pure size of that engine looking out your window makes the flight just a little bit better. Now, like I mentioned, and just like the middle seat, you have this headset sitting on the side next to you, and the headset actually wasn't that bad. And opening that up, I was able to test it out a little bit, as well as being a donation envelope inside that you can donate to children that might be in need. So for those of you that want to put some cash in there and give it to the flight crew, they'd be happy to pass along your donation. You can also see the hanger here, so if you brought a coat along with you, you can hang it on here. It's got your seat number on it, and the flight attendant can store that for you so that when you get off the flight, it's there waiting for you, but you don't have to wear it the entire flight, and you don't have to keep it at your seat. And as we watch the Swissair pre-flight video, one thing I found interesting is that on your seatback remote, you can see there's another video playing on there that goes right along with what you have on the seatback TV. And as we climbed away from the city of Sao Paulo, I took a moment to realize exactly how much storage this seat had. In addition to everything else we had, what we didn't have on the middle seat was this slide-out storage in addition to the storage next to my right knee. So plenty of storage for all kinds of drinks and chargers and accessories that you might want with you. The headset here you see had a nice little platform I found to rest it on, as with the plug is right below that, along with a reading light for you as well. In addition to that, there was a fold-out tray table, and on the console next to me where it laid down, there was this little thing here, and I couldn't figure out if it was a button or what it was for, but pushing it did absolutely nothing, so I figured it was just an impact point so that by lowering the tray table, you didn't cause any damage to the counter. Behind that, you had a water bottle storage, and actually each water bottle storage was filled with a water bottle, which is a nice touch on some of these long-haul flights. The tray table came out of the center console. You can see here with a push of a button, it slid right out and folded out from there and was plenty large for any sort of service, in-flight service and meals that they gave you, and actually a little bit more on top of that. Now, as far as the in-flight entertainment went on board this Swiss flight, all the cabins had the same selections on the seatback TVs. I found the seatback TV in the business class cabin to be fantastic. However, when it was dark, it was a little bit too reflective with the sunlight shining on it. That being said, there was plenty of selections for movies and TV and audio, and plenty if you were on a long-haul flight. I could see you having no problem keeping yourself occupied on this. In addition, they had the same type of map that you're finding on a lot of these airlines nowadays, where it's all interactive and you can actually look up all different destinations around the world and get more information on that. So if you don't have any interest in any of the movies or TVs, I'm sure you could keep yourself occupied for a little bit longer with just this map alone. Now, one thing I do appreciate is if you go to the TV series here and you click on any of the series, what they do have in store for you is basically full seasons of each of these shows, as opposed to just a few seasons scattered here and there, so you can get fully invested. The remote next to you basically plays as a secondary screen, which is nice on some of the longer flights when you want to stay reclined, and the seatback TV gets just a little bit too far from you. In addition, when you're laying down, the seat actually tilts just slightly toward you to help you get a better angle if you are trying to get some sleep. Now, Swissair's flights do have onboard Wi-Fi, and while I didn't actually buy that Wi-Fi today, I took a second to show you just a little bit of what that pricing looks like and what the internet looks like on board these flights. You can see you buy it by size, you can't buy full flights, and you can see a little bit of the pricing here, which honestly is average for these flights. One thing I do like is when business or first class gives you some sort of discount. However, we weren't given that on this. One thing that is nice though is if you do not know how much data you need, they will have a nice tool that you can figure that out. Even if you don't buy the Wi-Fi, you can still take advantage of some of the free services they have, particularly the map setting, which was nice to play around with so that I could watch whatever I wanted on my seatback TV and still have the map going on my laptop right next to me on my free counter space. And as we said goodbye to Brazil, I actually got fully into the relaxed mode of this seat, which was plenty comfortable. I had a ton of legroom, super wide footwell, especially in these single seats, and I waited for the in-flight service to begin. The service was really all not that special, considering it was more just meat and cheese, similar to what I had in the lounge. They gave me both bread options, even though I said I wanted one. She told me that I would like the other one too, and gave it to me, which was nice. And along with that came a nice sort of oatmeal-y type breakfast to go along with that. In the back of the cabin is the economy section, which for the most part is in a 3-4-3 setup, except for in the far aft of the cabin where the airplane pinches off just a little bit. In that place you'll find a little bit less seats. Walking in front of that, however, you'll reach the front of the economy section, and the premium economy section lies in front of that, which is in a 2-3-2 configuration, and it seems to match similar to what you'll find in a premium economy around the world nowadays. Walking in front of the curtain, what you'll find is the business class section, which alternates between a 1-2-1 configuration and a 2-1-2 configuration every other row. We're at seat 12K, which is a single throne seat as they call it on the far right side, and it offers a ton of leg room and a ton of privacy, considering you have a ton of space on both sides of you for laptops, food, storage, whatever you could possibly need, with no other person there with you. The restroom matches very well with Swiss Air's style as far as the rest of their cabin goes. You can see some more of that wood paneling and the nice oversized sink to give you plenty of space to spread out and be comfortable. However, on a long haul flight it is pretty small as compared to some of the other business class bathrooms that you might find. With that, we had arrived in Buenos Aires and we taxied over to the main terminal where we actually saw a few other planes that had came from Sao Paulo connecting from international destinations like the British Airways flight that we had pushed back next to, which we were actually arriving next to here in Buenos Aires. Saying goodbye to the business class cabin of Swiss Air's 777 was very bittersweet, as it was a fantastic flight that I needed to do again for sure. But on such a short flight, being only 2.5 hours, I didn't get to take full advantage of what the seat had to offer, especially considering that Swiss premium cabins were a definite bucket list item of mine for such a long time. I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to take advantage of that, especially for no extra cost, with my Star Alliance priority getting me that upgrade from the economy ticket that I had purchased. So thank you, Star Alliance, and thank you, Swiss Air, for this experience. I will definitely be back to try this cabin on a longer haul flight very soon. I've never found Buenos Aires customs to be all that bad, considering that you get this entire big glass hallway to yourself, with nice views of the ramp as you head off to customs, above all the passengers getting ready to depart on those airplanes outbound to their next destination, except it does make for a pretty steep incline heading up that jet bridge. From there you head down the escalator where they separate the Argentinians from the visitors, and the lines really were never all that bad. The longest I've waited to get through was actually only about 15 minutes. But as I did head out, it gave me time to ponder on this beautiful Argentinian day exactly how well that flight was. Swiss Air product is fantastic in economy, and now I know as well in the premium cabin. I am thankful for everyone that came over from the Fifth Freedom's journey, and I am sorry I wasn't able to get you the equal economy experience, but I'm hoping that you still enjoyed this video anyway. This flight was a huge win in my book, something that I definitely have to try on a longer flight, more so than 2.5 hours. But I couldn't complain as I walked outside to a beautiful blue sky day here in Buenos Aires with a temperature of about mid-70s. It made for a fantastic day of exploring before I headed off to my next destination. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. Welcome to Buenos Aires, Argentina.